Hi folks, John Dunn here, RPG freelancer, publisher behind Meliorvia. I'm up here today at Immortals Inc. with Mikey.
What is up, John? What do we have on our hands today?
Well, we are getting back to our classic mythos, Lovecraftian Cthulhu tone today.
Okay, it's about time.
Because we have a brand spanking new release, and that is Arkham Horror, the role-playing game, The Hungering Abyss. And this is basically a starter set for Arkham Horror, the role-playing game. So Arkham Horror, a little bit of history, was first a board game that Chaosium put out, and then Fantasy Flight got the license from them and did the second and third edition, and then they've done the card game as well too, and the store certainly carries both the board game and the card game. Well, now we've got the role-playing game version of it, and since the board game was kind of spun out of Call of Cthulhu, this is kind of getting back to those very roots.
Yeah.
But because this is a Fantasy Flight role-playing game, it kind of harkens back to their tendency with board games of giving you lots of stuff, right? This is a very tactile game. And let's just, dive right into it. Credits on this one go to Sam Gregor Stewart and Leah Hawthorne. Sam, I've worked with a ton going back more than 10 years. He did a lot of work on the Warhammer 40K RPG line, a lot of stuff for the Star Wars RPG line, Genesis, and I believe some L5R stuff as well. Leah, I think this may be her first published RPG work or one of her first products. She is a credited Edge developer, so she's another actual employee of Edge. Edge is the studio, RPG studio part of Asmodee, which is the bigger group that includes Fantasy Flight games now. So when you open up this box, the first thing that jumps right out at you is this 48-page booklet, and that's Arkham Horror, the role-playing game, Hungering Abyss. And this is really cool with the way they set it up, because there isn't really much of a discrete rule section. Instead, this is a learn-as-you-go packet for both the game master and the players. So there's a couple of pages of just, here's what's in the box, so that everybody can look at that. And then after that, it basically says, okay, players don't read past this point. And for the game master, it says, you need to read the book through once, especially the first part of it. And it is a 3-act adventure. And in each of those acts, they've got some scene breakdown. And in each of the scenes, you're introducing new game mechanics. So as you go through this book, you're pulling out different things from the box set and going, okay, now we're going to do this thing. So it's basically a combination adventure and introductory rules set. And this is a brand new rules system called the Dice Pool system. Sam was the one responsible for developing this. And so it doesn't use funky dice. You do, in fact, get a couple of packages of dice as part of the box set, but they're just standard 6-siders. So if you've got some other 6-siders laying around, you can use those too. Each player's probably going to need about 6 dice that all look pretty similar. I found the system kind of reminiscent of Gumshoe in some ways, in that you get to choose how many dice you're going to throw into an action. Much like in Gumshoe, you get to choose how many points you're committing to an action. So your every character starts off with 6 dice, and for every scene in a narrative scene or every combat round in a structured scene, every time you perform an action, you need to allocate some of those 6 dice. When your character gets injured or starts to go insane, you lose some of those dice. And when you perform an action, you spend those dice to make the roll. Skills are ranked from 6+ to 2+, and that tells you what you need to get on the dice you're rolling to succeed. So if you've got a 6+, maybe you want to commit 3 dice to those pool to give yourself a decent chance of success. If you got a 2+, well, you're going to succeed if you roll a 2 or higher, so you probably don't need to throw quite as many dice into it. So the higher your skill that you're using, probably the more actions you're going to get to take within the context of that scene or combat round. And when you take damage, you lose dice. So when that pool refreshes, unless you get healed, you're going to have fewer actions for the remainder of the time. when you're out of dice, like I said, you're basically done. And you may want to save some of those dice in structured scenes for reactions. So like if you want to dodge after somebody tries to hit you, kind of useful to have some dice left so you can try and do that.
A dodge would be nice.
And then there's a few complexities that are added into there, like there's horror dice that monsters may inflict on you, and then you need a different colored die to indicate that. And there's an advantage and disadvantage system that can kind of dictate circumstances where things are easier, and your characters have some essentially luck points that they can commit to maybe re-rolling or improving their chances of success. Without getting into too many spoilers, and not shockingly, this adventure does hew very close to that Arkham Horror archetype from the board game, in that there is a cult that is active in the city of Arkham.
Of course.
And the player characters need to do something to stop that cult from spreading and destroying the city. Well, in that vein, you do have some great Arkham locations that over the course of the scenes, your characters get to explore and interact with things there. And of course, the highlight, you do have to deal with an Elder God. Again, very true to what the Arkham Horror board game feels like. There are no character creation rules in here. This is just a starter set. So because of that, you do get 5 starting characters. And the adventure has some very specific hooks for each of them. You've got Joe Diamond, who's the private investigator, William Yorick, who's the gravedigger, Rita Young, who's a college athlete, Carolyn Fenn, the psychologist, and Daisy Walker, the librarian. And I believe all of these characters are characters that appeared in the board game. These booklets do open up, so you've got your game stats and a little bit of your history, and then a little bit of your story so far back here leading into things. The game also comes packed with 3 different double-sided maps. These fold out. They make for great combat maps. I think very reusable, particularly for some of these like St. Mary's Hospital, where it is kind of an iconic location within Arkham going back to the board game.
You know that Welcome to Arkham book and stuff like that?
Yeah.
That'd be a great help with something like this.
That would certainly be some great background information for Arkham, the city. And then you've got counters. And again, I said this is a very tactile experience for an RPG. This kind of hones in on that. You've got these counters here, and these are actually a puzzle that the characters get to solve. And it's one of those slide puzzles, like, I don't know, like you play at a restaurant when you're waiting for your food kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then there's some handouts. Again, these are very tactile items that are clues that the characters may start with or uncover. There's even a Game Master screen in here.
Wow.
That's packaged with everything with some quick reference rules on it. And then you've got some cards. Again, these are some handouts and some NPC stats and some equipment and some NPC reference cards as well. Very much in keeping with what I would expect to see coming out of Fantasy Flight's design studio.
High quality stuff.
High quality stuff and lots of stuff. So for folks who haven't done a lot of RPG gameplay, this kind of harkens back to some of those board game elements where I find it's a little easier to bring people in. You've also got your only dice in here are standard 6-siders, so nobody's going to be picking up the dice and looking at them going, how do I read this? Or what kind of die is this? It's all very intuitive, very straightforward, and you always know what you need to roll because it says right on your sheet what your skill level is, and that pretty much dictates it. So it's a very straightforward system. These handouts are all nicely aged. They represent, kind of puzzles to decipher. You've got all these stats and reference sheets. You've got the dice. There's a whole lot going on here. This is going to keep folks entertained. It's a solid 3-act adventure. I think it's probably going to take most groups on the orders of 4 to 6 hours and maybe more to completely play through that adventure. So it's a solid evening's worth of entertainment. Whether or not folks have played role-playing games before, this could be a great gateway into trying things out. I think there's a lot of potential in this. I was also really shocked at the price on this. For all that you get here, I feel this is underpriced. Don't tell the folks that, or
don't
Carlos
raise
will
the
be
price.
jacking the price on it.
Don't raise the price.
But this is $35 for a box with dice and counters and maps and rules and cards and all that stuff in here. Plenty. If you ever play it, you are more than going to get your value out of it the first time you play it. If this is something that interests you, this is brand new. Street date of August 2nd.
Yep.
So just putting it out on the shelf here at Immortals. Stop in, take a look at the box, or hit us up at immortalsinc.com.
$35 is nuts. Thank you, John. Check it out for yourselves.
Till next time, folks. Good gaming.